That new press secretary, she's a gangster.
That video, dude.
She's a gangster. They're prepared. And you know why they're prepared? Because they're trying to play gotcha.
Yep.
So she played gotcha with them. She checkmated them.
She came in there with that Elon Musk flamethrower.
Play that video.
Watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
The hosts of The View recently targeted White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, criticizing her for standing firm and refusing to cave to their familiar political theatrics. Their relentless jabs were so exaggerated that podcast, heavyweight and cultural commentator Joe Rogan felt the need to respond. On his latest episode, Rogan pushed back hard, calling out The View for what he described as performative outrage, labeling them a group of out-of-touch pundits more focused on optics than substance. If you enjoy your commentary unfiltered and on fire, make sure to smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you never...
That new press secretary, she's a
That
gangster.
video, dude.
She's a gangster. Have you seen that video?
You've never
Jamie?
seen someone more prepared for a question in your life, Jamie.
Have you seen that? You know what I'm talking about?
Small point on that. Not the big point, but small point. She was so prepared for
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, she's supposed to be prepared.
That's why I
Jamie.
said you've never seen someone
You know
more
why?
prepared.
For that.
They're
for that
prepared.
specific.
Joe Rogan kicked things off by praising Karoline Leavitt for standing her ground and skillfully handling every question thrown at her by the legacy media. He highlighted what many Americans have already noticed. Leavitt is sharp, confident, and unapologetically clear in her messaging. Frankly, we haven't seen a press secretary this quick on her feet and in command of the facts in a long time. In contrast, Karine Jean-Pierre often struggled during her time under President Biden, relying heavily on a binder and delivering responses that felt more like political theater than substance. That's why someone like Leavitt feels like a breath of fresh air, competent, articulate, and fearless. But of course, the hosts of The View don't see it that way. To them, strength and clarity in a conservative...
This young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Karoline Leavitt's so-called crime. Having the courage to look the hosts of The View in the eye and tell them, without hesitation, that she wouldn't entertain a second of their political theatrics. That one statement landed hard, and the progressive media wasn't ready for it, especially not from a young, sharp, unapologetic conservative woman. But Karoline didn't back down. She stood her ground, called out the double standards, and exposed the groupthink on full display. And here's the thing, she wasn't wrong. Even liberals like Bill Maher, who's no supporter of Trump, have called it out. Maher has openly
Tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did?
When you've lost Bill Maher, it might be time for a serious look. In the mirror, Karoline Leavitt didn't just hand The View that mirror. She held it up and forced them to confront their own contradictions. At first, Karoline didn't even respond to the host's jabs. Frankly, she had more important things to focus on than trading insults with a panel of daytime TV personalities. But they didn't let up. They kept at it, questioning her experience, belittling her qualifications, and making dismissive remarks about why she earned her role. That was the breaking point. Karoline had stayed silent long enough, so she responded with confidence, clarity, and zero hesitation. Her remarks weren't random or emotional.
Clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have spewed. These women are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up.
Karoline Leavitt's words cut straight through the polished facade of The View. Sharp, direct, and impossible to ignore. The hosts may have expected a few talking points, but they clearly weren't prepared for the level of clarity and confidence she brought. Her response wasn't just bold, it was articulate, forceful, and delivered with a level of precision that left the panel visibly shaken. The reaction was immediate, sending the show into a collective scramble. As expected, Whoopi Goldberg wasn't going to let it slide. Never one to back down when challenged, she fired back with her own emotional rebuttals and recycled talking points in an attempt to regain control. But the damage had already been done. Karoline had exposed the
Not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
Sometimes it's genuinely hard to listen to Whoopi Goldberg without questioning her role in today's cultural discourse. Beyond being a once-celebrated actress with a few notable films, what has she tangibly done to uplift or empower Black women in America? Any groundbreaking initiatives? Any lasting contributions? If you know of any, feel free to drop them in the comments, because they're not easy to find. Whoopi often speaks with an air of authority, as if she's been on the front lines of progress. But when you strip away the fame and movie credits, what remains? Her media presence has become increasingly controversial, marked by tone-deaf comments, divisive hot takes, and some of the most uncomfortable live TV moments in recent memory. Rather than elevating the conversation, she often steers it into unnecessary conflict. If she represents anything, it may be more about keeping up appearances for main...
That people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested henhouse.
And Joe Rogan just brought serious fire to what's become a never-ending media circus. And honestly, it was long overdue. He didn't hold back, and every point he made landed exactly where it needed to. Rogan called out The View for what it's become, a platform of unhinged commentary packaged as daytime television, and he's not wrong. Some of the statements coming from that panel leave viewers genuinely stunned. One of the most controversial moments came when Whoopi Goldberg made a widely criticized comment about the Holocaust, a statement so historically inaccurate it sparked backlash from across the political spectrum. Then there was her attempt to pit Black Americans against women by suggesting one group has it worse than the other, framing the issue in a way that was both divisive and counterproductive. These aren't just casual missteps. They're narratives that confuse, polarize, and ultimately damage public discourse. Finally,
Behar went after Joe Rogan on The View, and he fired back spectacularly.
You're worried about losing your job, and you're worried about podcasts taking over, and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us, and he won, and this is and Joe Rogan believes in dragons. They're prepared because they're trying to play gotcha.
Yep.
So she played gotcha with them. She checkmated them.
She came in there with that Elon Musk flamethrower.
Play that video.
Joe Rogan absolutely dismantled Joy Behar for her bizarre claim that he believed in dragons, a moment so off the wall that even Rogan couldn't resist mocking it. He responded with his signature sarcasm, using the moment to spotlight not just that strange comment, but a broader pattern of questionable takes she's delivered on The View. Rogan called out the hypocrisy, the theatrics, and what he described as a consistent lack of serious thought in Behar's commentary. But it wasn't all criticism. Rogan also took a moment to highlight Karoline Leavitt, praising her for her intelligence, composure, and razor-sharp thinking. He applauded the way she handled the media and stood firm in the face of non-stop pressure. According to Rogan, Leavitt represents a refreshing shift. Someone who communicates clearly, avoids political buzzwords, and brings real substance to the conversation.
Whoopi Goldberg saying it's worse to be a black person in America today than a woman in Iran. You know, I see we were talking about the trans issue before, and the New York Times really has come over on that to the sort of the sensible, liberal, not crazy woke position. I think this is a great first step toward getting the Democrats back to sanity, and a second good step would be we got to do something about The View.
And Bill Maher is absolutely right. If we're serious about returning to the principles of classic liberalism and moving past the performative extremes that have overtaken modern discourse, The View is a great place to start. The show has become a platform for hysteria, identity politics, and rigid ideological conformity, a trend that's deeply affecting meaningful public debate. Classical liberalism was built on the foundation of individual freedom, open dialogue, limited government, and the protection of civil liberties. It was about reason, tolerance, and the belief that ideas should be challenged, not protected from scrutiny. But today's progressive movement often twists those values, promoting speech codes and rigid narratives that silence dissent. That's not progress. It's a step backward. If liberalism is to endure, it must distance itself from the extremes that undermine its foundational principles. And The View has become symbolic of that shift. In a media landscape overwhelmed by noise, Karoline Leavitt stands out. She's bold, articulate, and unafraid to challenge the status quo. Joe Rogan's passionate defense of her, and his critique of The View, reflect a growing frustration with the shallow, emotionally driven takes coming from mainstream daytime TV. From praising Leavitt's intellect to calling out the inconsistencies in the show's commentary, Rogan voiced what many are thinking: if we want real progress and honest discourse, it's time to stop amplifying theatrics and start celebrating courage and clarity. Karoline just gave us a masterclass in how it's done. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, consider supporting the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.